Now, one of the key things to learn with arpeggios is learning to use them to anticipate the next chord. Say, for example, if I took the opening to Autumn Leaves, if I played quarter note arpeggios, just laying down the foundations of the chord tones here, everything is neatly packaged in each bar like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And everything's really square. Now that is just foundation kind of work, if you like. That's about learning the fretboard, training your ear to the sound of the chord tones. But as I said, it's all a bit square, it's all contained within the bar lines. Now, when you listen to great improvisers, those bar lines are less obeyed, if you like, and there's this often nice sense of anticipating the next chord, which really gives a soloist kind of forward momentum in their soloing. So in episode 10 of Making the Changes, we're going to look at exactly that, how to anticipate the next chord change, which will, as I said, give your solos forward momentum and a kind of drive towards the next chord. So it feels like rather than waiting for the chord change and then playing something, you're leading the listener to it. So we've reached the 10th episode, and the series really has been about laying groundwork for you to solo with arpeggios. And in the earlier episodes, I kept things dead simple rhythmically because my concern was, the fretboard knowledge and training your ear. Whereas now we're starting to get into, let's use these arpeggios a bit more musically. So here's an example where I am anticipating the next chord. So what was happening in that example is rather than waiting for the next chord and then playing the arpeggio on beat 1 or a bit later in the bar, I am leading into the next chord, kind of trying to anticipate it and take the listener there. And this takes away some of the square edges. If I break it down for you, the first bar, A minor 7 to D7, I'm going A minor 7 up, 1, 3, 5, 7, get the root in the next octave, drop for the third, then the fifth again, chromatic note leading up to the third of the D7. So, anticipate. So we've led the listener to that third of the chord. Now that makes it sound less like A minor 7 then D7. It sounds like A minor 7 to D7, if you see what I mean. We ride the movement of the chord change. And then I'm going chromatically down to the root of the G major 7. I'm doing a walk up to the third of C major. Walk up to the root of F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Walk down to the third of B7. Walk down to the third of E minor. So, as you can hear there, what we've got happening, the last few notes of the bar are about leading to the next chord. Now, this is using chromaticism really, which I covered in the last lesson, sort of chromatically going down from above or from below, like that, using 2 notes or maybe 1 note, things to experiment with, but you've got to get your head into the next chord before it comes. That's the tricky bit because, you'll have practiced a lot of your arpeggios like A minor 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, D7, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So this is kind of a slight tweak to that sort of thinking. Now let me break down a few ways we could anticipate the notes of an A minor 7. So the examples I put on the PDF, there's the arpeggio up, 1, 3, 5, 7. I could chromatically walk up to the root from a tone below and then play. Now that would make sense to play it on beat 4, so you anticipate it. So 1, 2, 3. So the A comes in on beat 1, so we're targeting a note for beat 1. 1, 2, 3. Works really well. We could do the opposite direction. Let's try down. So that last one went G, G sharp, A. This time we're going to go B, B flat, A. 1, 2, 3. There we go, that works nicely too. What other examples have I got? Oh, I've got chromatic enclosure as the third one. So above and below, like chord scale note above or note within the key. So a B, we're in the key of E minor, so that's a note above the root of an A minor. Chromatic approach note beneath the chord tone. 1, 2, 3. And that's just different ways I could anticipate the root of that A minor 7. Obviously there's 3 other notes in that chord. The 3rd, the 5th and the 7th. You could also do ways to approach those as well, but just keeping it simple with the root to begin with. Those examples were the root. Now, the most important note in a chord is the 3rd, because that defines its quality of whether it's a major bass chord or a minor bass chord. So to really like make the harmony just stand out clear as day, you enclose the 3rd. And so we could put the 3rd on beat 1, and if I did that for each note, each 3rd against each chord in that A section, it would sound like this. So what happens there, effectively, we've got this lead in. On beat 4, we play something to anticipate that chord, and that enclosure, where we play a note above and a note below, then makes that 3rd stand out very clearly. Now, in terms of how to pick those notes to anticipate that 3rd, I am using scale note above and chromatic below. When I say scale note, this version of Autumn Leaves is in E minor. So if you took the E natural minor scale, you'd have E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. So if your note was an E, for example, that you're trying to enclose, the scale note above would be an F sharp. If the note you're trying to target is a G, the scale note above would be an A, the note above from in the key. And the chromatic note will just be a semitone below your target note. So if you take this C here, the note in the key above won't be a C sharp but a D, and the note below will be a B. So I go scale note above, chromatic below, to the 3rd, to the C. That's for A minor 7. So when I went through that example, if I break it down, that first one, we're enclosing the 3rd of A minor, going D, B, C. For the D7, scale note above the 3rd, which is an F sharp, will be a G, chromatic below. And then for the C major 7, G major 7, sorry, we have that, and so on. That's what's happening there. So I'm playing the scale note above and the chromatic below, landing on the 3rd on beat 1, which gives me a slight kind of anticipation and way to kind of step into the chord, lead into the chord before it arrives. Here's an example of that featured on some of the chord changes. So in that example, I anticipated the A minor, enclosed the 3rd, then down an arpeggio of A minor 7, enclosed the 3rd of D7, go up to the flat 9, and then enclose the 3rd of G, walk up to the 3rd of C, walk up to the root of F sharp minor 7 flat 5, walk down and enclose the 3rd of B7, go to the flat 9, and slightly different at the end, but still anticipating the chord. So as you can hear there, on beat 4, in each chord there's either an enclosure of the 3rd or walking up to the, or down to the note that we're trying to target. Now all of these ways of anticipating the next chord so far have come with like a chromatic lead in, chromatic approaches from above and below, or chromatically walking down or up to a chord tone, so that I say there's a bit of a journey to the next chord rather than get to beat 1 then play it. Now I think really the truest sense of anticipation though is actually to play the arpeggio of the next chord before it comes. And this really does give forward momentum to a solo. Now, here's an example of it, and then I'll break it down. So in that example, on beat 4 of every chord change, I am playing a bit of the next chord's arpeggio before it comes in. Now, this kind of thing, firstly, can feel a little bit strange because you might not be used to playing another chord's arpeggio over another chord, like for instance playing D7 over A minor 7, for example. But one thing to just note is all of these chords are from the same key, so they will all sound pretty good against each other. You know, you can play other chords over other arpeggios over other chords to get different sounds. But that's not what we're trying to do here. Really what we're trying to do is take away, as I said, some of the straight edges of the bar lines, if you like, because although bar lines exist in written down music, and obviously the beat pervades as we play, we don't have to be so rigid with how we play over that, and we don't want to play in like boxes and chunks. It's going across the bar line is a lot more interesting. But I think the biggest thing you get from this sense of anticipation is, like I say, this kind of sense of forward momentum, of leading the listener to the next chord. Stuff sounds less like I'm playing this for that chord, that for this chord, and starts to, I think, kind of, you feel the harmony coming, if you like. Take away the backing and you should be able to know what chords are being played, really, I think, with any decent solo. And this will certainly give you that, because you kind of hear where you're going. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this installment. The backing track for this series is on my Patreon page on the lowest tier, so you can always grab that there. It's just the A section to Autumn Leaves in E minor. If you've got any questions or comments, then do leave them below. Don't forget jazz guitar lessons every Wednesday. Until next time, you take care.